Bach, Brackett, Buckner-Webb, Cameron, Davis, Durst, Fulcher, Getty, Guthrie, Hagedorn, Hyder, Hill, Johnson, Keogh, Lacey, Lakey, Lodge, Martin, McKenzie, Mortimer, Nonini, Nuxel, Patrick, Pierce, Rice, Schmidt, Sidaway, Stennett, Thane, Tippett, Vick, Work, Winder, Bayer, Buckner-Webb, Davis, Getty, Keogh.
Senator Baer can be added to the roll call. Roll call shows 33 present, 2 absent, excused. Senator Getty has an excused absent. Quorum being present, Senate will advance the second order of business. Prayer by Senator Lacey and Pledge of Allegiance. We'd ask our friends in the gallery to rise and join us in prayer.
Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, we are very thankful to be here and privileged to be a part of the Idaho Senate. Please let our thoughts and our actions be tempered with logic and compassion. We ask for your guidance. We are blessed to be here. We are blessed with health, and we ask you to watch over our loved ones at home, that they may be blessed also. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Now we'll be led the Pledge of Allegiance by our page, Carson Cole. Carson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator Keogh will be recorded present at this order of business. Senate will advance third order of business, reading Corrections Journal.
February 20th, 2013. The Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that the Senate Journal of the proceedings of February 19th, 2013 was read and approved as corrected. Lodge Chairman.
Be filed in the Office of Secretary. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, personal privilege.
You have the floor.
Mr. President, Senators, just a roadmap on where we're heading this morning. We will work our way through the various orders of business. When we get to the 9th order of business, I want you to know we will not be going immediately into the 10th order of business, so be aware of that. We'll be skipping that order. We'll do the first and second reading calendars, and then we will, excuse me, my apologies, return to or go to the 14th order of business to pick up the bills that are in there that have amendments so we can get them off and on their way. Once we complete our work in the 14th order of business, it will be our intent then to return to the 10th order of business and pick up the gubernatorial appointments that are there. And then we'll go to the third reading calendar. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to send advance to the 6th order of business.
Objections to advance the 6th order of business. Report to Standing Committee. Senate's at the 6th order of business.
February 20th, 2013. The Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1111, 1112, Senate Concurrent Resolution 114, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 115 have been correctly printed. Lodge Chairman.
Senate Bill 1111 will be referred to the Local Government Taxation Committee. Senate Bill 1112 will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. And Senate Concurrent Resolutions number 114 and number 115 will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
February 19th, 2013, the Commerce and Human Resources Committee reports out Senate Bill 1014 and Senate Bill 1100 and recommend that they do pass. Tippett Chairman.
Senate Bill 1014, Senate Bill 1100 will be referred to the 12th order of business, second reading.
February 20th, 2013, the Education Committee reports out Senate Bill 1089 and recommend that it do pass. Getty, Chairman.
Senate Bill 1089 will refer to the 12th order of business, second reading.
There is no further business in the sixth order, Mr. President.
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate advance to the ninth order of
Without
business.
objection, Senate advance to ninth order of business. Messages from the House. Senate's at the ninth order of business.
February 19th, 2013. Mr. President, I transmit herewith House Bill 65 and House Bill 180, which have passed the House. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
House Bill 65 and 180 will be referred to the 11th order of business for introduction.
There is no further business in the ninth order, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate advance to the 11th order of business.
Objection. Senate advance to the 11th order of business. First reading of bills. Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be read by number, author, and title only, and the journal show be read at length.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 65 by Education Committee, an act relating to education, to revise provisions relating to the Educational Support Program, to provide a code reference to establish provisions relating to dual credit courses. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 180 by Appropriations Committee, an act appropriating additional monies to the Department of Health and Welfare for the Division of Welfare for fiscal year 2013.
House Bill 65 will refer to the Education Committee, and House Bill 180 will be referred to the Finance Committee.
There is no further business in the 11th order, Mr.
Senate
President.
advance 12th order of business. Second reading of bills. Senate's at the 12th order of business. Senator Fulcher.
President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on second reading be read by number, and author only, and journal show they've been read at length.
Without objection, so ordered.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1074 by State Affairs Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 48 by Resources and Conservation Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 49 by Resources and Conservation Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1061 by Resources and Environment Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 29 by Judiciary Rules and Administration Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1092 by Education Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1093 by Education Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1053 by Health and Welfare Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 166 by Appropriations Committee. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 174 by Appropriations Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1065 by Transportation Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1081 by Transportation Committee. In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1083 by Transportation Committee.
Senate Bill 1074, House Bill 4849, Senate Bill 1061, House Bill 29, Senate Bills 1092, 1093, 1053, House Bill 116, House Bill 174, and Senate Bills 1065, 1081, and 1083 will all be referred to the 13th order of business, third reading.
There is no further business in the 12th order, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the 14th order of business, resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole, and that Senator Winder be appointed to take the chair.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will advance the 14th order of business, and Senator Winder will take the chair. The Senate will be at ease, subject to call of the chair. You can introduce Dr.
Good senators, today I stand while we're at ease to, first of all, introduce my sweet wife who's here with us today with my son Ryan. It's a pleasure to have them. And sitting next to Ryan is Dr. David A. McCluskey from Twin Falls. And as we all know, the good senator from 11 read his appointment to the Department of Corrections last week, and I made the statement, there's not a finer man in Twin Falls, and I would like to sustain that today and have you welcome Dr. McCluskey as well as my son and wife. Please make them welcome.
Senators, I stand while we're at ease. I've got couple of my favorite government teachers in the whole state with some students, Jeanette Jackson and Cheryl Adams. I couldn't remember Mrs. Adams' name earlier because I'm bad with names, and some students from Caldwell High School. Would you please join me in welcoming them to the Senate?
Senators, also while we're at ease and before we begin the Committee of the Whole, I also have some friends that I'd like you to welcome to the Senate. Led by Becky Latham and Alicia Passy, we have students from Skyline High School, Hillcrest High School, Compass High School, Taylor Crossing Charter School, and also from Twin Falls. Would you please stand? Senators, welcome them to the Senate for me. We know that you also want to see the Capitol building. We're excited for you to do it, but if you'd like to see a little sausage making, the 14th order of business is a great place to watch that happen.
Committee of the Whole Senate will come to order. The Secretary will read the list of bills before the committee.
Senate Bill 1018 with no amendments. Senate Bill 1072 with one amendment. Senate Bill 1062 with one amendment. Senate Bill 1048 with one amendment. Senate Bill 1097, no amendments.
Senate will have now under consideration Senate Bill 1072. There being no objection, the bill will be considered read in full. Being no objection, amendment to Section 2 will be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Bach, seconded by Senator Nuxel, that the amendment to Section 2 be adopted.
Senator Hyder is recognized.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill that deals with the ability for people to go to their driver's license division and pay a $2 fee for organ donations. And in the bill, we recognize that it said $2 in one place, and shortly thereafter on page 6, line 40, it said $2 or more. And also on page 8, line 41, said the same thing, $2 or more. And to make the bill consistent with itself and read the way that we propose that it should be read, we propose to eliminate the words or more in those two places on the bill. Are there any questions? Or with that, the debate is open.
Debate being open, is there debate in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have
Senator
copies
Patrick.
of the amendments in this row, so we appreciate
Ask
that.
unanimous consent.
Senate will be at ease. Or the Committee of the Whole be at ease.
Who doesn't?
Fulcher, I've read. We're good.
Committee of the Whole come to order. We were in debate had been open. Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, Senator Hyder is recognized. Closed debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The I think when you look at the bill, you'll find that the consistency is there. The intent was to charge $2 or allow a $2 fee to be charged voluntarily as individuals renew their licenses, and so now that's exactly what the bill states. And with that, Mr. Chairman, the debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall amendment to Section 2 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion to adopt Section 2 is approved. Senate will have for consideration amendment to Section 3. There being no objection.
Mr. Chairman, I think I need to make a call here on the amendment to Section 2. Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, a report is had under consideration Senate Bill 1072, amendment to Section 2, return same as amended without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Senate will now have to consideration amendment to Section 3. There being no objection, the amendment to Section 3 will be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Bach, seconded by Senator Nuxel, that the amendment to Section 3 be adopted.
Senator Hyder is recognized to open debate.
Mr. Chairman, Section 3 contains exactly the same language. It's a $2 fee, and in on page 8, line 41, it mentioned $2 or more. And to bring it into consistency, we eliminate the or more and make the donation a $2 donation. With that, Mr. Chairman, the debate is open.
Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, Senator Hyder is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The debate is closed.
Debate being closed. The question is, shall amendment to Section 3 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Senator Fulcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move when the committee rise, the report is had under consideration Senate Bill 1072, return same as amendment without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. And amendment to Section 3's adoption. Senate will now have for consideration Senate Bill 1062. There being no objection, the bill will be considered read in full. Being no objection, amendment to Section 1 will be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Sidaway, seconded by Senator Guthrie, that the amendment to Section 1 be adopted.
Senator Sidaway is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, this bill was brought to us, and when we saw it, there was a provision in the bill that said that on a trespass that the signing of that had to contain at least 100 square inches, or if it was a metal post, that the metal post had to be all that orange color. And we worked this over a little bit to maintain 100 square inches on the metal post. So if you paint a metal post, a regular T-post down 18 inches, that would give you like 108 square inches, and that would avoid having to paint that post clear to the ground. And I think that's a traditional use. So with that, Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, Senator Sidaway is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall amendment to Section 1 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and amendment to Section 1 is adopted. We'll now have under consideration amendment to Section 2. There being no objection, the amendment will be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Sidaway, seconded by Senator Guthrie, that the amendment to Section 2 be adopted.
Senator Sidaway is recognized to open debate.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Same debate.
Debate being open.
Debate is
debate
open.
in opposition. Senator Bach.
Mr. Chair, would the senator from District 35 respond to a question?
I will.
Good Senator, I notice in the first line It says orange colored. Is that a typo, or am I missing something here?
Mr. Chairman, good senator from
16.
16. When you read the engrossed bill, that word is part of orange, and it all tucks in there nicely, so it's a complete word.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent the committee of the whole go at ease. Subject to call of the chair.
Committee of the whole be at ease. Subject to call of the chair. Until we got to all three of them, which is what I thought, which is what you said. So. Before we got interrupted, we were on Amendment 1, right? Amendment to Section 1. So the motion passed, so we would now have the consideration Section 2, right? Okay.
So debate's over.
What's that?
Debate's over.
Yeah, all right. Committee of the Whole will come to order again. We'd had opening debate on amendment to Section 2. Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, Senator Sidway is recognized. Closed debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall amendment to Section 2 be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the amendment to Section 2 is adopted. We'll now have her to consideration correction of the title.
Moved by Senator Sidaway, seconded by Senator Guthrie, that the correction to title be adopted.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Senator Fulcher.
Mr. Chairman, I move when the committee rise. A report is had under consideration Senate Bill 1062 and return same as amended without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and motion carries. We'll now have under consideration amendment to Senate Bill 1048. Being no objection, the bill will be considered read in full. Being no objection, the amendment will be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Davis, seconded by Senator Mortimer, that the amendment to the bill be adopted.
Senator Davis, recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, this is a radiator cap bill. And for those new to that term, it just means we backed the car up into the garage, took the radiator cap off, pulled the old car out from underneath it, and pulled a whole new car in underneath the radiator cap, and then attached permanently, well, semi-permanently, the radiator cap, hence the term a radiator cap bill. The bill itself, and I'm the sponsor of it, I lawyered it. I put together this convoluted due process proceeding for protecting individuals when their driver's licenses are suspended for the parts in here. Really, all I wanted to do was just say that if you get a parking ticket and you don't pay your parking ticket, that they can't suspend your driver's license because you did not pay your parking ticket. And so I pulled out that beautifully worded due process stuff that you can read in the bill, and perhaps you will tonight. And I have inserted in the stead the words a parking, and then later it picks up violation. You might ask why I didn't do it that way to begin with. Because I'm a lawyer. Debate is open.
Debate being open, is there debate in opposition?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Mortimer.
that's why I seconded it.
Thank you, Senator. Is there debate in opposition? Hearing none, Senator Davis recognized closed debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall amendment to the bill be adopted? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the amendment to the bill is adopted. We'll now have our consideration and correction to title. Be no objection. The title be considered read in full.
Moved by Senator Davis, seconded by Senator Mortimer, that the correction to title be adopted.
Heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Senator Fulcher.
Mr. Chairman, I move that when the committee rise, the report is had under consideration, Senate Bill 1048 returned same as amended without recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Correction title is adopted.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Fulcher.
I move the committee rise and report.
Mr. Chairman, I second the motion.
Heard the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Committee of the whole Senate is dissolved.
Yeah, you can take that. You ready, Jennifer? Senate will come to order. Prior to going east, Senate was at the 14th order of business. Senate's at the 14th order of business. Senator Winder.
Thank you, Mr. President. We, your committee, the whole Senate, beg leave to report that we've had under consideration Senate Bill 1072, Senate Bill 1062, Senate Bill 1048, and return same as amended without recommendation. We further report we've had under consideration Senate Bill 1018 and Senate Bill 1097. Report progress and beg leave to sit again. Mr. President, I move adoption of the committee report.
Senator Buckner-Webb. Been moved and seconded.
Seconded. There you go.
Senate adopt the report. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The report has been adopted. Senate Bills 1072, 1062, 1048 will be referred to the Judiciary and Rules Committee for engrossing. The amendments thereto will be referred to the Judiciary and Rules Committee for printing. The following measures will retain their place on the 14th order of business. Senate Bill 1018 and Senate Bill 1097.
There is no further business in the 14th order, Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
President, I ask unanimous consent the Senate return to the 10th order of business.
Without objection, the Senate will return to the 10th order of business. The Senate's at the 10th order of business has for final consideration the report of the Judiciary and Rules Committee on the appointment of Mike Matthews to the Commission on Pardons and Parole. The Secretary will read the report.
February 18th, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Mike H. Matthews to the Commission on Pardons and Parole, term to expire January 1st, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate Lodge Chairman.
Senator Mortimer.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the committee report.
Senator Stinnett.
I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. The Senate adopt the report of the Judiciary and Rules Committee. Senator Mortimer is recognized to open debate on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, it's a pleasure that I have to introduce to you Michael H. Matthews, a great Idaho citizen. He was raised in Declo, Idaho, and graduated from Declo High School. Afterward, he continued his education at Idaho State University, concentrating on English and physical education. He began his teaching career in 1970 in Burley, Idaho. His first year was spent instructing at Burley Junior High before he moved to Declo High School to teach English and physical education for a combined 33 years before retiring in 2003. Retirement could not keep Mike down. In 2004, he agreed to work as a principal for a school in Utah, and at that same time, he agreed also to participate on the Commission of Pardons and Paroles. Starting in 2005, Mike began to give even more attention to the Commission of Pardons and Paroles. He has not let this impact his ability to be involved in his community, however. He has served on the Cassius School Board for the past 7 years, acting as chairman for the last 2 years. He is also active in his local church, teaching Sunday school course to 14-year-olds. That's an assignment even of itself. Lastly, he continues to be involved with education in his area by teaching night classes to Joint Minidoka and Cassia Alternative students, along with his acting as lead evaluator for all schools within Region 7. Mike is a wonderful man. He has been married for 44 years. He has 3 children, 7 grandchildren. In his exhausting schedule, giving a great deal to his community and state, he continues to find time for state service and his family. Mike takes his responsibilities on the commission very seriously. He has found the Parole Commission to be a rewarding experience. When asked about his time on the commission, Mike said, and I quote, "I enjoy the opportunity to serve. I find the work exhausting, concerning, frustrating, intriguing, enjoyable, and rewarding." It's without hesitation that I recommend him as the appropriate candidate for Commission of Pardons and Paroles. Mr. President, the debate is open.
Debate being open for the debate on the committee report. Senator Cameron.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, just a few additional comments, and thank you to the good senator for carrying him. Mr. Matthews, Mike Matthews, is in my district. He's a good friend and a good man. Has a good wife and a good family. He is, as the senator from 30 said, a tireless servant. He just gives and gives of his time. He's been an ardent defender of the Cassius School District and as a member of the Cassius School Board and as the chairman of that board now. He's a good friend to my former seatmate, Senator Darrington, and they are close personal friends, and I rely and he relies heavily on Mr. Matthews' opinion. Thank you, Mr. President.
For the debate. Hearing no further debate on the committee report, Senator Mortimer is recognized to close debate.
Thanks to the senator from 27 for his comments, and Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, will the Senate adopt the report of the Judiciary and Rules Committee on the appointment of Mike Matthews to the Commission on Pardons and Parole? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The report has been adopted. The governor will be so notified. The Senate now has for final consideration the report of the Resources and Environment Committee on the appointment of Louise Stark to the Outfitters and Guides Licensing Board. The Secretary will read the report.
February 18th, 2013, the Resources and Environment Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Louise D. Stark to the Outfitters and Guides Licensing Board, term to expire April 20th, 2015. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Pierce, Chairman.
Mr. President.
Senator Stinnett.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the committee report.
Senator Sidaway.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. The Senate adopt the committee report. Senator Stinnett is recognized to open debate on the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am honored to speak for the reappointment of Louise D. Stark of Challis, Idaho, excuse me, to the Outfitters and Guides Licensing Board, and this is a reappointment. She is currently treasurer of the board. Ms. Stark is the co-owner to a big game hunting, fishing, summer recreation outfitting, and guiding business. She is a recreational licensed guide, office manager, and first aid instructor. Louise Stark has worked in aircraft dispatch for the Boise Interagency Fire Center with the Forest Service, with the Red Cross swimming instructor and aquatics director in Fairbanks, Alaska. And frankly, aquatics instructing in Fairbanks sounds awful cold to me. She was employed with the Bureau of Land Management, Alaska Fire Service, and with the Forest Service in the Challis National Forest in fire dispatch, timber crew, fire lookout, recreational patrol, and trail crew. Ms. Stark has a BA in physical education, a secondary teaching certificate, and is a Red Cross first aid, CPR, and AED instructor. She is bright, articulate, and active in many community organizations. She is a member of the Wild Sheep Foundation, the Challis Chamber of Commerce, the Stanley Chamber of Commerce, the Ketchum-Sun Valley Chamber of Commerce. She covers her bases. Salmon Chapter, and with the Outfitters and Guides Association, the Safari Club International, and the Sawtooth Society, and the foundation, the Moose Foundation. She is very active and a delightful woman to speak to, and I strongly encourage you to join me in appointing Louise Stark to the Outfitters and Guides Licensing Board. And with that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Stinnett is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, will the Senate adopt the report of the Resource Environment Committee on the appointment of Louise Stark to the Outfitters and Guides Licensing Board? All in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been adopted, and the governor will be so notified. The Senate now has for final consideration the report of the Education Committee on the appointment of Brian Scigliano to the Public Charter School Commission. Secretary will read the report.
February 19, 2013, the Education Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Brian Scigliano to the Public Charter School Commission, term to expire May 12, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Getty, Chairman.
Senator Thane.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adopt the committee report.
Senator Buckner-Webb.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. The Senate adopt the report of the Education Committee. Senator Thane is recognized to open debate on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Brian Scigliano is being appointed to the Charter Commission. He lives in Boise, Idaho. He grew up in the New England area, where he graduated from Boston College, Massachusetts School of Management. Currently, he's the Senior Vice President of Investments for Wedbush Securities here in Boise. He has extensive experience in finance. He has seven children. Both of his parents were teachers, so he has great interest in education. Come to find out, in visiting with him today, he actually ended up marrying a gal from Emmett, Idaho. So that's a good deal. He, like I said, he has some financial expertise, which I think would be very beneficial to the State Charter School Commission, and I urge your support.
Debate being open. Is there further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Thane is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed. Question is, will the Senate adopt the report of the Education Committee on the appointment of Brian Scigliano to the Public Charter School Commission? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been adopted, and the governor will be so notified. The Senate now has for final consideration the report of the Education Committee on the appointment of Gail O'Donoghue to the Public Charter School Commission. Secretary will read the report.
February 19, 2013, the Education Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Gail L. O'Donohue to the Public Charter School Commission, term to expire May 12, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Getty, Chairman.
Senator Pierce.
Mr. President, I move the Senate adopt the committee report.
Senator Buckner-Webb.
Mr. President, I second the
Been
motion.
moved and seconded. The Senate adopt the committee report. Senator Pierce is recognized to open debate on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, today we have Gail O'Donohue before us as a Charter School Commission member. She served there before, has done an excellent job, has been a great asset to the state. Let me tell you a little about her. She's been married for 22 years, same husband. She has 2 daughters, both freshmen. One's a freshman in high school, one's a freshman in college. Before she moved here to Idaho, she worked as a crisis communications specialist for Westinghouse, Hanford, Richland, Washington. Served there in the nuclear industry as a communications specialist for them. In 1994, she and her husband moved to Idaho and worked for the College of Idaho, again in communications. Then she moved from there to the Northwest Nazarene College and has served there a time also in communications. She's since that time been a founder of 2 charter schools. She currently serves in various capacities in Liberty Charter School, Victory Charter School, and Legacy. You know, she loves her work in education. That's where she always wanted to be. And she realized as she sent her first children to school how important education suddenly became to her and her feelings about it. A statement she made that when they moved back to Idaho, they realized they loved Idaho. They loved what was here. She said, Idaho is about families. And I thought that was an interesting statement. She also described when they moved back here, they lived on a street in a little house somewhere there. And she said what a family street it was. They did all things together as all families. It was just really a feeling that she carried. And I think she's that kind of a person that gathers and brings unity about things and not a divider. She is extremely concerned about tax money being spent very carefully. She recognizes that there's a very important position for public schools as well as charter schools in the state, and that the one being there has also been a benefit to the other, and it has improved education. She is a good appointment, and I would encourage your aye vote. Debate is open.
For the debate. Hearing no further debate, Senator Pierce is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, should the Senate adopt the report of the Education Committee on the appointment of Gail O'Donohue to the Public Charter School Commission? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The report has been adopted and the governor will be so notified. Senate now has Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the gubernatorial appointment of Wanda Chillingworth Quinn to the Public Charter School Commission be held for 2 legislative days. May I explain?
You may.
The floor sponsor has an excused absence for this legislative day.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Senate now has the report of the Agricultural Affairs Committee on the appointment of H. Norman Wright to the State Soil Water Conservation Committee. The Secretary will read the report.
February 19, 2013, the Agricultural Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of H. Norman Wright to the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission, term to expire July 1, 2017. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Mayor, Chairman.
Senator Guthrie.
Mr. President, I move the Senate adopt the committee report.
Senator Buckner-Webb.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. The Senate adopt the report of the Agricultural Affairs Committee. Senator Guthrie is recognized to open debate on the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. We have before us today the name of H. Norman Wright, who was appointed to the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission on July 1, 2012, and that term is set to expire on July 1 of 2017. And visited with Norman, known him for a few years, and he's been very active in his community and currently is involved in the American Falls Lions Club, and has been for 33 years. He's a member of the National Association of Retired Federal Employees, the Idaho Groundwater Pumpers Association, and AARP, and he's currently a member of the American Falls City Council and the Idaho Community Foundation board member. Norm went to BSU and earned his bachelor's degree in 1972 and also participated in the USDA's Farm Service Agency Farm Loan Officer Training in 1999. His work history includes a good number of years from 1978 to 2010 as the Power County Executive Director of the USDA Farm Service Agency. And besides that, he has a background that includes many years in farming. Norman's one of those guys that's not afraid to speak his mind, and you know what's on his mind, and I think he'll be a good addition. And he's very passionate about soil and water conservation issues. With that, Mr. President, good senators, I hope you can join me in supporting H. Norman Wright as the gentleman on the second floor's choice to serve on the Idaho Soil and Water Conservation Commission. Mr. President, debate is open.
Further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Guthrie is recognized to close debate.
Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, will the Senate adopt the report of the Agricultural Affairs Committee on the appointment of H. Norman Wright to the State Soil and Water Conservation Commission? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the report has been adopted, and the governor will be so notified.
There is no further business in the 10th order, Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate advance to the 13th order of business.
Without objection, the Senate advance 13th order of business, third reading of bills. Senate's at the 13th order of business.
Mr. President.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senators, I would ask that House Bill 41 be sent to the 14th order for possible amendment. May I explain?
You may.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 41 proposes to amend existing law to clarify when visually impaired individuals are considered competent to drive a motor vehicle. And I've received several inquiries into this bill, and I just need a little more time to prepare debate and to consider all the facts.
Thank you. No objection.
Debate.
You want the? Do you want it held, Senator? I'm sorry. Do you want it held, or do you want to send it back to committee?
Order. The 14th order.
Send it to the 14th order. Okay. Hearing no objection, House Bill 41 will be referred to the 14th order of business for amendment. Senate now is for final consideration. Senate Bill 1070. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the Senate, Senate Bill number 1070 by Local Government and Taxation Committee, an act relating to charges for motor vehicle traffic incident responses, by the addition of a new section to define terms to prohibit a county from charging an incident.
Mr. President.
Senator Sidaway.
Mr. President, I ask for the reading of Senate Bill 1070 be dispensed with, and the journal shows that it's been read section by section a third time and is now properly for the Senate for final consideration.
Hearing no objection, Senator Sidaway is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good senators, this bill has some controversy tied to it, so I bring it to you at the request of a few people that had some problems here, and on behalf of many of the insurance companies that combined together to bring this before us today. And what the subject is today is what I guess a lot of us would call an incident response fees, or crash taxes, or perhaps misfortune fees. And what happens here is when we'll just, in order to stay in kind of congruent, we'll use the example of a car accident. Most of us are pretty familiar with how those happen and what happens, but sometimes when there is an auto accident, there will be various responders that come to that auto accident. Be the ambulance, obviously, first, and wreckers, and recently fire engines have been showing up there to make sure that there's no fire, or if there is a fire, to put that fire out. And as we go down through this bill, there is language in the bill that if anything is neglectful, or they, anybody's intentionally causing damage, that they can be charged for that. And also, there's in Idaho Code 2401 that does allow fire districts to charge under certain circumstances. So, so what happens is there's an auto accident, everybody shows up, whatever responses there are taken care of, and the mess is cleaned up, and then a week or so later, the person that was in that accident, if, say, the fire department cleaned the antifreeze off the road, or another responder there used something like the oil absorbent, which, you know, most of us would think of like a kitty litter, to put down on the road, then to absorb those materials, then a week or so later they're receiving a bill for those expenses of that fire department to show up at the accident, or expenses for use of some of those materials to clean up the accident. And and if you look on the fiscal note, you'll see that it only has about a $50,000 fiscal note tied to it, and that fiscal note is tied to the local taxing district, whether it's your ambulance district or your fire district or whichever one. And until just 2 or 3 years ago, even though motor vehicles have been around for 100 years now, until just 2 or 3 years ago, these bills were all taken care of through your local taxing districts, and through the any costs there were paid for through that taxing district that oversaw that part of the incident response. Well, a couple of years ago, there was a company from Washington called EF Recovery that started to go to some of these fire stations, if you will, and said, look, if you'll send these guys a fee, or send these guys a bill, and we'll help you and assist you in doing that, and we'll do that for $50 per incident, or 14%, whichever is greater, then we'll help you extract that money from those people that had the misfortune of having an accident. And to me, good senators, that's the basics of the bill, and it just seems really unfair that when you have an unintended accident, that you have to go through the misery and pain of that accident, whatever the results are, and then to pile on these additional costs. And many of these insurance companies, when they sell the policies, some of us just buy the liability. So that isn't covered in that. Some of us buy the comprehensive and the liability, but some of these cleanup expenses are still not incurred in that. And that opens the door for these, and I keep using the fire district, so for these local districts with these services to come in and charge you. And so I hope I've laid both sides out there well enough so that you have a good understanding. There are expenses incurred, but those expenses should be covered by our local taxing district. And with that, Mr. President, debate is open.
For the debate, Senator Wirt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Senate, this could be a really good bill. If it was written well and written with some sideboards, this could be a really good bill. Unfortunately, what you have in front of you is a bill that doesn't have those characteristics. And let me just take a few minutes to explain why. If you look at the language of the bill, and Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me to read some portions of the bill, I'd appreciate that.
Having identified the source, the Senator may read.
Thank you, Mr. President. In sub 3 of the bill, under section 1, it says a county shall not impose an incident response fee And then if you read further down, it tells you what you're limited to charging for, which is A, the cost of repair of damaged public property, B, the cost of the county for materials used at the scene of a traffic accident, and C, the towing costs. So what you have is a situation where the taxpayers in any given community are being asked to make sure that they cover the costs for all automobile accidents, for instance, in that community, regardless of which people were involved in the automobile accident. And a really easy example of why I think this bill doesn't really hit the mark that we want to and could is that if you have a community that lies in a place where you have an inordinately large amount of automobile accidents, state highway goes through the community, the county, perhaps there's some difficult road conditions, and so you end up having a lot of out-of-towners having unfortunate incidents in your county. Well, what happens excuse me, what happens under this bill is that, sorry about that. What happens under this bill is that, boy, it's tough. What's that?
Senator Rubio, can we get you?
Yeah, thank you. I need to reach my drink of water. Thank you. Ooh, we're both being affected by the air conditioning these days, or the heat system. What ends up happening, thank you. What ends up happening is that the citizens of the community need to end up paying for all those responses, right? Fire trucks are coming out, whatever's happening in the community, they keep on going out to all these accidents. And so under this bill, you face a situation where you can't charge a response fee, and the kind of charges you can have are extremely narrow. So the citizens of that community then have to pick up through their taxes the extra costs of responding to incidents that don't occur with people in their communities. So the reason that I'm opposing the bill and would urge you to do the same is that this could certainly be written in a way that allows us to allow communities to collect costs when people that are involved in accidents aren't ending up picking up the costs for those community resources, those services. So, Mr. President, with all due respect, I think we could do better, and I'll be opposing the bill.
For the debate, Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. To debate against the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. In North Idaho, we have a river called the Loxall River, runs east to west, beautiful river. And quite often during the winter season, we have quite a few diesel spills on that river, trucks sliding off, those types of things. And we have incident response teams that come from as far away as Lewiston. Some of the smaller communities up along that river corridor also help in that response. And they have to pick up some of those costs to do that. And I can assure you that if you're a trucking company and you have an accident along that river and you spill diesel on that road in the ditch, or worse, in the river, you're going to pay for that cleanup, and you have insurance to do that. Smaller communities may or may not be reimbursed for their expenses. And in the city of Lewiston, Mr. President, if I might read from an email that I received from the fire chief of Lewiston, I could just explain a little bit more about how the city of Lewiston handles this.
Having identified the source, the senator may read.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Gary DeYoung, fire chief for the city of Lewiston, dated February 14th this year, 2013. He says, and I quote, "As you know, the insurance companies have been collecting a fee on all our insurance policies for years. Recently, they've been asked to make good on those policies, and it has minimally impacted their revenue streams. These amounts can be very important to some fire departments, some more than others. As you know, the Lewiston Fire Department provides the EMS ambulance service for Lewiston and the surrounding areas. We charge only if we transport a patient to a hospital. There is no fee for treat and release or non-injury response from an EMS aspect. The response for these incidents is also covered by on-duty personnel, and there's no specific cost associated with that response. What is not covered by tax base is the equipment and disposal of absorbent or other hazardous materials or fluids that were spilled because of the accident. The Lewiston Fire Department uses a third-party provider, EF Recovery, to bill the patient's automotive insurance for the associated fees. However, not every accident needs a hazardous materials response or cleanup. They're very minimal. In 2010, we had 9 responses for a recovery of $5,891.18. 2011, 20 responses for $5,148.58 recovery. And in 2012, we had 13 responses for $1,531.29 recovery. Some are still active. You can see that in our program, it is not a huge revenue-generating process, but it does help offset the operational budget used for that equipment. Thank you, Mr. President.
For the debate, Senator McKenzie.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. This is an interesting issue, and it's not an easy one. On one hand, you have those taxing districts who incur these costs if there is an accident within the district. They respond and have to cover that. And a lot of those they're not being supported by very high levy rates from the property tax. So they don't have extensive budgets to do that. But on the other hand, there should be some sideboards in place as to who can be charged for those, what the amount that they can be charged, and what specifically they can be charged for. The choice really is between having none of those sideboards and what we have here in the legislation. And the issue is that the insurance companies may be in support of this, but it's typically, for most drivers who only get the minimal coverage required by law, the insurance companies don't foot the bill for this. It's the driver who gets a bill for the response, and currently there's no limit on what can be charged. It's not limited to the party that's responsible for the accident. It's not limited to cleanup costs. There have been bills sent out for sandwiches for the crew, for overtime, for wear and tear on a vehicle. There's no limit on that, and it's not things that are being set by your cities or your counties where you've got someone who's got to be directly responsible to the voters. It's a taxing district where there's no recourse when you get this bill. You just get it. So I think, when you talk about putting costs to citizens, there should be sideboards. It should be limited to the party that's responsible, which is here. It should be for actual costs, which is what the bill does. And it should be costs of cleanup, damage to public property, and then costs to tow the vehicle. I mean, those are all reasonable things. And we as a body, we're setting that, and we're responsible to the people. So there's a check and balance there. If we want to go back later and limit it further, to change it further, I think that may be an issue for debate. But by doing nothing, there's no sideboards at all, and I don't think that's the right policy. And so it is a close call for me, but I think it does reflect the right policy. It puts some limits on that and protects the citizens of Idaho while ensuring that we get coverage of actual costs for these things that arise in the accident, and you get it from the party that caused it. Thank you, Mr. President.
For the debate, Senator Nuxall.
Mr. President, would the senator from 35 answer a question for me?
Senator Sidaway, would you yield?
I will.
Senator Nuxall for the inquiry.
Senator from 35, is this going to change anything for the volunteer fire departments?
Excuse me. I couldn't hear it. Please repeat.
Okay. Does this, how are the volunteer fire departments, what happens to them?
Senator, the question is, does this impact volunteer fire departments?
Good senator from 3. I don't see how that this would have a downside effect on those departments yet, unless this is allowed to just grow and mushroom to where it gets to become a real significant part of their income and their operating expense. But right now, where we just have this $50,000 fiscal note on it, and it's being used in 10 or 12 districts. I think that most of the voluntary fire districts right now aren't charging those fees anyway. It's just 10 or 12 of the 154 districts in the state that have even tried to use it. And like I said earlier, this has only been going on for just the last 2 or 3 years. So I don't think very many departments are going to be affected if we pass this bill now. And I certainly concur with the good senator from 13, that if they want to do something in the future, bring it to us and let us have a shot at it. But right now, I don't think it will have much of effect on very many departments, especially volunteer departments.
Thank you.
The debate. Senator Durst.
Mr. Chairman, with the senator from 35 yield to an additional question.
Senator Sidaway.
I will, and speak
Senator
up.
Durst.
I'm old and I can't hear very well.
Mr. President, I'll work on speaking slowly and loudly to assist with the hearing issue. Good Senator, I'm wondering if you might tell me, I have a scenario in place. I'd like you to kind of tell me who currently pays and how that would change under this legislation were to become law. So let's say I'm driving, I have comprehensive insurance on all my vehicles, and I get in an accident, but it's my fault, even though the guy in front of me shouldn't have stopped so quickly. If I rear-end this guy and it's my fault and the incident response team comes and does what it does, who currently would pay under that circumstance with me being a driver with full comprehensive insurance?
Senator Sidaway.
Good senator from 18. Your insurance company would be obligated to pay all of the expenses there, and there are insurers in the room that could maybe answer if that's different. But that would be my understanding with comprehensive, that they had not only pay the person that you tail-ended, but they had also pay for the repair of your vehicle and you might have a deductible in there, so you may be stuck with that deductible.
Mr. President,
Senator Durst.
a follow-up question, if I might, please.
You may.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sidaway, would you yield to
I will.
Senator Durst for the inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator from 35. So put a little finer tip on it. So we're talking about these incident response fees. That's what I understand this legislation to be trying to address. My question is, who currently pays for that if I have comprehensive insurance? You mentioned their cost of repair and those sort of things. I get that. But on the incident response fees, who would pay for that in this circumstance?
Okay. Good senator from 18. Who would pay the response bills as almost all of the 154 districts currently operate would be the property taxpayers in that local district. They would be the ones that pay for any expenses that went out to, say, put out a fire or ambulance, those kinds of costs. That's how they're currently paid for.
Mr. President, just one last question, if you would yield.
Senator Sidaway, would you
will.
yield? Senator Durst for the inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the indulgence, Senator. So in no circumstance would the insurance company be then, of a policyholder with a comprehensive insurance, would they be obligated to pay in any circumstance, would they be obligated to pay for that incident response fees that we're talking about in this legislation? Is that always being borne by the cost being borne by the local property taxpayer?
Good senator from 18. My understanding from talking to some of the insurance companies is when you buy your insurance policy, you can buy just the liability, you can buy the comprehensive, and you can buy insurance policies that cover all of the incidentals that go by it. But I think that was one of the big concerns, that a lot of people that buy those insurance plans think that they are going to cover everything if they buy the comprehensive. But that isn't necessarily the case. And sometimes the people that the the services that respond to an accident aren't really needed. They're just sent out there as a precaution, and yet they still get, because the insurance company won't pay for it, the individual gets billed for that response.
Further debate? Senator Rice.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this is quite interesting to me because what we have is we're carving out a core responsibility that we created these entities for. We created fire departments and ambulance districts and police departments to respond to exactly this type of incident. That's what we gave them taxing authority for, is to pay for it. Somebody came up with an interesting scheme to get some additional dollars and didn't run it by us. And if you look at the potential, are we going to next see fire departments charged for the incident response to every fire on top of the taxing authority? It doesn't match. If we want to have a debate about giving them additional authority, let's have a bill on that. Let's not let them go deciding to create new methods of funding themselves and then say, well, we shouldn't put sideboards on it because, oh, gee, it might be fairer to charge people from out of town or from the next county over or the next state over. Let's have the debate about what the issue really is. And it's them coming up with creative ways to get additional funds without running a bill, without asking for us to put sideboards on it in the first place, so that it matches up with what the intent was in the first place. The intent in the first place for giving taxing authorities was so that these very entities could respond to these very type of incidents. And I think that it's appropriate to tell them that they need to come to us if they want different funding methods and additional funding authority. And I think it's important for us to tell them, don't go getting too creative. You need to talk to us so that we can actually consider all of the ramifications before we start heading down roads like this one. Thank you.
Mr. President, debate a second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is it
for a second time?
Any senator wish to debate for the first time? Senator Nonini.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excuse me, a couple comments. Typically, insurance companies are great at subrogation. And so if you're in an accident and your insurance company pays, because the person that caused the accident doesn't have any insurance, your insurance will pay. Then your insurance company will raise your premiums for that claim. Then they'll turn around and go subrogate that claim and try to get the money out of the person that caused the accident. Now, whether that person that caused the accident, Mr. President, has any insurance or not, those insurance companies will darn near go to the ends of the earth to get that money, whether it means filing claims against the person's assets or garnishing checks or whatever ability they can. So I'm not sure about this legislation. I appreciate the good senator from 35's intent here, but listening to the debate and the good, I have to agree with the good senator from 10. I think he hit it right on too, but something that wasn't brought up was the subrogation issue, and I think we need to have a better understanding of it. And I'm not going to ask the senator from 35 to yield as not being in the insurance business or being an attorney. Maybe we have a fair amount of those in this chamber. They might want to stand up and address the subrogation issue. But I would just be very careful in your consideration of supporting this bill for the reasons you heard and the reasons that I bring up on the subrogation. I think at the end of the day, the insurance companies are going to get their money back. They're going to subrogate the claim. We're going to pay higher premiums. And I'm just thinking we're going down the wrong road with this piece of legislation, and I would encourage a no vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
For the debate, Senator Johnson.
Mr. President, for the second time.
Does any senator wish to debate for the first time? Senator Johnson is recognized to debate for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the comments from the good senator from 3. The good senator from District 10 stated that, you know, if you have an accident or if we have a fire and our local EMS services respond to that, we do pay for that out of our tax base, no question there. But, you know, let's say that I'm out on the forest and I create a forest fire or somebody creates a forest fire accidentally. I promise you they can and they have gone after people to pay for those expenses. Yet they pay income taxes. They pay them to the state, they pay them to the federal government, they pay them locally. So I don't think it's that clear. Then also, the fees that I referenced earlier in my testimony are for fees that are not reimbursed through taxes. These are additional things that are provided. They don't provide for their time if they don't transport, but if they have to use services that are not transported by the tax base, they're asking for some reimbursement with that, some help, and it has not been abused. I think the numbers are very fair, what they provided. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Keogh.
To debate the bill.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have sympathy for what may be happening in the handful of districts, but I also represent rural areas that have districts that respond to these incidences. They're the only ones around. The tax base isn't sufficient to cover what they do now. They don't have agreements that I'm aware of with whatever these entities are that are taking advantage of the situation. I would just say one size does not fit all, and I'd like for us to consider going back to the drawing board on that, and that would be why I'd vote no. Thank you.
Further debate? Hearing no further debate, Senator Sidaway is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good senators, for the good debate. I told you it was a little bit controversial, so I do appreciate all of your debate. I did get a little note, manna from heaven, that said that this does not affect volunteer fire departments, and I hope that is correct. But you know, senators, if you just read the bill on that section 1, paragraph 3 down through there, it says the county shall not impose an accident response fee, but may charge the cost of repair, the cost of the county for materials used, the cost of towing, you know, those kinds of things. Those are legitimate costs, and any other costs that are incurred from you know, intentional damage to property, either owned by the county or an individual, you know, those are costs that are covered. I think, you know, some of these other things that were mentioned, like driving I don't know if I heard this right, but, you know, if we drive a tanker into the river and their costs, well, federal laws kick in then. You know, we have state laws, as I referenced to in early in the opening debate, that take care of things in Idaho Code that take care of this. And like I said, we've only had this problem for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's really small now. But if you, as senators, start having the constituents in your district that have an accident and then are strapped with the responsibility of having to replenish their home and go through the replenish their car and go through the medical expenses that are perhaps incurred with the accident, and then on top of that receive bills from their local taxing district that they're not going to, then we're going to start hearing from those folks. So I would just urge your careful consideration. I hope for your aye vote. With that, Mr. President, the debate is closed.
May be closed. Question is, so Senate Bill 1070 passes. Senate Secretary will call the roll.
Baer. Bayer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill.
Mr. President, explain my vote.
Senator Hill.
Thank you,
60
Mr. President.
seconds.
I'm going to oppose this bill. I really think these parties can get together, and I think the thing they need to do is come up with a fee schedule that they can agree on of what our costs. I mean, we've heard we've heard some of the extremes, and some have taken advantage on both sides. And I think they come together, get a schedule put together that they can agree on. Come to the legislature, as was suggested, next year. If they can't do that, I might be inclined to support this next year, but right now I still have hope that we can come up with something. Senator votes no.
Johnson? Keogh? Lacey? Lakey? Lodge? Martin? McKenzie? Mortimer? Nonini? Nuxel? Patrick? Pierce? Rice? Schmidt? Sidaway? Stennett? Thane? Tippett? Vick? Work? Winder? Bear? Durst? Getty? Hagedorn? Lakey? Mortimer? Pierce?
Senator Winder, how would you like to be recorded? Aye.
Okay.
Roll call shows 13 ayes, 21 nays, 1 absent, excused. Majority having failed to vote in the affirmative, Senate Bill 1070 has failed to pass the Senate and will be filed in the office of Secretary. Senator Davis.
Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that bills in the 13th order, third reading calendar be reordered as follows, placing Senate Bill 1402 at the top of the calendar, followed by Senate bills, followed by House bills.
Hearing no objection, third reading calendar will be so reordered.
I apologize. I misspoke. What's the
Senator Davis.
I said 1402, and I meant to say 1042. This is not the first time I've made that mistake.
Try and get to it. You got that straight? Okay. So ordered. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent in advance of the 15th order of business.
Out of objection, the Senate will advance the 15th order of business, miscellaneous business, and adjournment.
Personal privilege.
You have the floor.
I know we're all in a hurry, but I did want to let each of you know that all of our dear friend, Senator Getty, his father passed away last night. Fortunately, he was able to be there to be with his father prior to the passing. And so I know each of you, your hearts go out to him and his family. Please remember him in your prayers. He does plan to return to be with us tomorrow, and he wanted us to share that with you. We'll soon adjourn till the hour of 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, and prior to adjournment, I ask if there are some brief introductions or announcements.
Announcements. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I move the Senate adjourn until the hour of 9:30 a.m. tomorrow.
Senator Stennett.
Mr. President, second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. The Senate adjourn until 9:30 tomorrow. All in favor say aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Well, no afternoon.